My life mantra is discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most. Or I'm just going to go for it and just see what happens.
Yeah.
The way you go through life and the challenges you come and how to face adversity. And I mean, your life can be summarized in a marathon. And it's like the first little bit's going to be easy. You're going to make gains. You're going to make inroads. Yeah, I'm in the race. Yippee. And then, you know, mile 7, 8, 9 comes. Okay, I'm still doing okay, but this is starting to get a little uncomfortable. When your body is screaming for you to slow down, screaming for you to give up and to just tell it to shut up and keep going. You know, you get to that 16, 18, 20 point and it's like, okay, this just sucks. I'm going to give up. And I find it's not even like, yeah, it is a physical thing, but it's so much more of a mental thing. That first moment where it crosses your mind, you know, I could just stop and the pain would be gone.
Yeah.
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 But why put yourself through that pain? Like, why?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That is a good question. Oh, sweet.
We'll get into the full thing, but I'm going to do the intro. Welcome back to the Tool for Rise podcast, where we document the rise and stardom of Winnipeg's talent and personalities, a.k.a. the #1 podcast in Winnipeg. Got a crazy story. I've wanted this guy on for a long, and we finally got him. Introduce this man.
Let's bring him on. He's a world record holder for running the fastest marathon while dribbling a basketball. Please welcome Stef Reimer.
Hey. Thanks for having me, guys.
Let's go. Big round of applause.
Awesome.
All right, I'm going to get straight to the thing.
Yeah.
My question when I searched you up was why? Why did you run a full marathon dribbling this basketball?
Yeah.
Straight up, it was COVID, 100% because of COVID. COVID kind of shut down everything, and myself and a lot of runners were having a hard time staying motivated without that, like the carrot of a race to train for. And so there's a bunch of different stuff that people were doing, and there's virtual races and stuff. But for me, it was like I needed something to wake me up in the morning, to get me out the door, to something to train for. So I'm like, you know what? When I am finally able to race, if there's not like official races or like, that type of thing, but there's courses open, then I'll see if it's something to train for. So it got me up in the morning, it was. Got a lot of weird looks training for it, but it was a fun little treat for me to train for and to work towards.
Yeah, we always need that little extra push to keep us going in the morning.
For sure.
But I'm curious to see, how did this training process look like? Like, are you just dribbling down the dirt road, trying to find the right dribbling pace?
Yeah. So I am I'm a sub-elite runner. Not bad for Manitoba standards, but obviously rest of the world and nowhere near the top, but here close to the top. And so running for me is like running a marathon. I don't really have to run it fast. Yeah, I'm putting in a ton of miles for it, but I'm doing a lot of miles just running. So I was already in shape, and then adding the basketball was just a matter of just getting more comfortable with it. But no, if I was able to just nicely do a relaxed crossover dribble, I worked out every 3 steps, was able to get in a nice rhythm, and just, it was very monotonous, it was actually training runs got boring very fast because it was now a monotonous activity that I had to focus on. Right. Normally when I go out for a training run, if it's not a one that I'm really focusing on a pace or really pushing myself, I'm just logging miles, I can just let my mind wander, think about life, pray, whatever I want to do. But now I had to be focused on keeping this ball going and making sure it wasn't hitting the cracks, making sure it wasn't, that type of thing. So it was actually, but it was just it was still a monotonous, boring activity. So it actually got boring after a little while, but then on race day, it was fantastic. It was so much fun.
So so there's a difference between running a marathon and then what you did. Right?
Absolutely.
Because not people train for a marathon for sure, but then nobody really thinks to add something extra to it. Was basketball your first thing that you thought I would just do it, or did you think of a soccer ball? Did you think of other things?
Yeah, and that's interesting too, because again, I'm a phys ed teacher, so different sports equipment is always in my hands. It's always what I'm doing, day in, day out. I am actually, my background was from soccer, so that was one that crossed my mind. But when I was looking for things, I'm scrolling through the Guinness Book of World Records and seeing, there's a pile of world records out there. There's for marathons, like dressed up as a vegetable and dressed up like a movie character. Like, and a lot of them don't require like a special talent other than just running up dressed up.
Sure.
But so I'm like, when I was picking one, I'm like, I'm gonna do one that requires a bit of talent, that isn't just. I mean, again, I say just. Anyone who sets a world record running a marathon, you're awesome, right? Like I'm not gonna discredit any of that, but I wanted to do something that had a technical skill to it as well, and that's when I played basketball in high school. I did a bit of coaching afterwards as well, and so the basketball is always something that's been close to me, as well, and then teaching kids how to do it, like grade 1 to 4 kids how to dribble and stuff like that is part of my job. So adding that, it made sense, and I saw the record. It was at 3 hours. 3 hours, 25 seconds or something. It was right at the 3 hour mark. I'm like, do you know what? That seems like I'm going to have to work for it, but it's going to be doable. Yeah. And so it was like something I wanted that was going to be attainable. It was a goal that was attainable, but it was going to require work. And so that's why I picked the basketball.
Okay. Yeah. If my numbers are not wrong, you did it in 2 hours, 50 minutes, 33
something.
seconds.
Yeah. 33. Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. Just running, even running a marathon that fast is like, kind of impressive, like under a sub 3 marathon, like
that would have been that time would have been my personal best in like 2017, like not that long ago. Yeah, right. And so it was. Yeah, no, it is still fast. Absolutely.
That's crazy. Like, so I'm curious to see like what was going through your mind when you were actually like running that race. Like one little crack you hit, one wrong dribble, the ball's gone all over.
Oh, absolutely, and it happened once.
Yeah. So like, how did you combat that?
It was focus. Yeah. It was so hard. To stay dialed in, because like you mentioned, every single dribble had to land on a flat surface. We know what the roads are like here in Winnipeg. Yeah. Winters do their toll. So no, every single dribble had to land on a flat spot, had to avoid the cracks. And once in a while it did kind of like bounce up a little funny, and you can make your adjustments and stuff like that. But after a time that got taxing. And then staying mentally engaged in that later on in the race was tough. But it was like, so I've ran 2:37 is my personal best. Yeah. And so I knew that I'd have time to give, that I could back off my pace a little bit and still be. So hopefully my mind and my legs were still going to be able to be sharp at the end, because I knew I'd have to stay engaged the whole time, and tried to allow myself a little bit of that flex time where if I was starting to struggle, I'd be able to back off and still be able to get the world record. Right. So that was kind of the thought process of running at that speed.
That's pretty cool.
So when did you fully decide that, okay, I'm doing it with the basketball, and this is the date that the marathon is, and how long before did you start training with the basketball?
Okay, so rewind even a bit further. Okay. Back, I had to apply it. The application process for Guinness is about a 3-month acceptance process. So I applied back in, I think, like December of 2020 it would have been, to run just sometime in 21. It was something, you're getting sick at home crazy with COVID stuff, thinking of things to do. I'm like, hey, let's apply and see what happens. And 3 months later, go ahead and try. Okay. And then kind of put it on the back burner for a while. Races weren't coming. And then Manitoba Marathon said, yeah, we're going to have a race. It won't be like, it wasn't just a gun start, go everyone, mass start. Yeah. The course is open, but there wasn't really like normal fluid stations or whatever. It was an open course that would have been legal to do the record. I'm like, okay, let's start practicing. So it was probably about 2.5 months before the race where I just started where I took the bullet for the first time and just, saw how it was going to be like, comfort level wise. Was it going to be doable and stuff like that? And I was able to kind of settle in the pace right about that, marathon pace, about 2:55 marathon time. And it was like, do you know what? I think I'm going to be able to do this. And then I went out about once or twice a week with the ball. Like I run 7 days a week when I'm training for marathon, but once or twice a week I would go out with the ball, and just to get comfortable at that. And then slowly was able to get like really comfortable where I could run, where I knew I'd be able to run at 2:55. And then was able to drop it even more on race day. Because on race day, you get the crowd out there and like stuff like that. It was great. Adrenaline takes you there last little bit.
Was there ever a moment where you're like, maybe the basketball isn't like, I'm not going to be able to do this. Maybe it's going to be too much work or too crazy to pull this off.
Do you know what? And I say this in the most humblest way possible, but no. Yeah. Like I had confidence that it was going to happen. every time I went for a run, I was hitting the times that I needed to do, and I was comfortable running at that speed with the ball. And then on race day, it went textbook. Like I was hitting my times, I was feeling comfortable. I lost the ball about 4.5 miles into the race.
Yeah,
was the first time. But I watching back on the video, it totally hit a crack. It bounced up high, so I was a little kind of off, and I pushed back down. And it went right off my shin and kicked sideways. And I had to kind of stop. I lost probably about 4 seconds is what I guessed by watching the video. But you're out of your rhythm. And then shortly right after that was the first station, and I missed my first water bottle as well, or my first gel. And I was kind of like, oh boy, this is not going to go well. At that point, so there was a thought that went through my head there, but I knew I had time buffer. That was the thing. I knew I had the time buffer,
right,
where I was comfortable that I'd be able to run at least a 2:55. And so I knew, like, hey, in there I got 5 minutes of mistakes that I can make. And that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I felt pretty comfortable the whole time that it was going to happen.
That's pretty cool.
I'm just so fascinated by it. Let's take like a outward approach.
Mm-hmm.
And when did you start running? Like, have you been running your entire life? And how'd you get into this marathon versus, like, what was your first race, and how did that work out?
I've been an athlete since I was, out of the womb. Okay. I grew up in an athletic family, farm background. Okay. We worked hard. Yeah. So always working, always doing sports. My dad was into sports, coached me soccer all the way growing up, played every sport under the sun in school and middle school and stuff like that. So did track and field from when I first could. I think in grade 4 was my first track meet. Okay. Did well. Like, I always enjoyed running. Yeah. Did it through high school. Got a couple of offers to different university stuff to do running, and just kind of put it on the back burner. I was into soccer at the time, was playing with the club in Steinbach, and then started a family. And it was like, so then I stopped soccer because it was a lot of time commitment for with the family at home, and you have kids and stuff like that. But running is then something that I got back into because I was able to build my life around my training. I was able to build my training around my life, not my life around my training. Okay. When you have it playing a team sport, you kind of, you got practice at 7:00. Your whole life kind of jiggle around that. Yeah. Now I was like, hey, here's my life. Here's what I got planned for the day. Okay, I can get a run in there, right? And stuff like that. So it was because it's an individual sport. And then I've got to know a bunch of the running community now since then. So to go back to your question, started taking running more seriously in 2015. Okay. Set out the goal to qualify. The goal then was to qualify for Boston. And then I was able to get that at like my first marathon after really taking my training seriously, and was able to kind of just after that slowly knock off different goals. There's still things I want to do yet, but yeah, no, I've loved running. The community is fantastic. Even at the elite level, when you're competing against guys, you're all still encouraging each other to run faster and pushing each other further, and it's a great community to be a part of, and I love it.
It's an individual sport. That's what I love about it too. Yeah. Because I come from a soccer background too. Okay. And transition, and like, I'm not an elite runner or whatever. I just do it for fun because I know in the the heat of the moment, whether I'm on the treadmill or out on the road, it's me against me. Yeah. Like, I use it just basically like clear my head. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to see, like, what do you use it for? Like, is there a deeper message than just like, I wanted to be active, I wanted it to be around my life versus, like, is there a deeper message behind your running? 100%.
Yeah, no, I love competing. So that was probably the first reason I got into it. I'm so competitive. So I needed something to keep me active and keep me competing. So that's why when I stopped playing soccer, because I cared about my family, that was why I went into running, because I had to stay active and competitive. So, but no, I've learned so much. Like, the parallels in life to running are just like, there's so many. Yeah. And just the way you go through life and the challenges you come and how to face adversity. And your life can be summarized in a marathon in so many aspects. And for me, like, so I'm a Christian, and I read the Bible, and the Apostle Paul talks about in there all the time too, about running the race and how it compares to life. And it's just like, it just comes alive for me. Yeah. And so for me, there's a ton of different meaning. If I stopped running, the life experiences that I've gained would stop, and it'd be like, there's so many things that I can compare to, like, life and running. It's crazy. Yeah. It's absolutely crazy.
Running is not only like physically running, it's also a large mental game too.
Huge.
Talk about the mental game and how you started and overcame that.
So there's a saying in running that running a marathon is 95% mental and 5% in your head. And so it's all there, and to learn how to push through when you're struggling is the biggest thing. I look at guys like, the top marathoner in the world right now, Eliud Kipchoge. He's an absolute beast mentally, and there's no one like when you see him pushing through it the last couple miles, and he's got this smile on his face, and you can tell he's just like he's at peace as he's pushing through the stuff that none of us could ever dream of pushing through. It's so crazy, and to learn how to mentally overcome to when your body is screaming for you to slow down, screaming for you to give up, and to just tell it to shut up and keep going. And I joke with students all the time too, where I don't know. Sorry, now I've kind of lost words here a little bit. But just learning how to push through. And this is what I was saying. The wall. So in marathon, you often heard of the term the wall that comes at between 18 and 22, somewhere in there, you're gonna hit the wall. And the wall isn't even. I find it's not even like it is a physical thing, but it's so much more of a mental thing. That first moment where it crosses your mind, I could just stop and the pain would be gone.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like the moment that enters your mind, that's the wall, and it's like you're going to be battling until that finish line is in sight. And so it's learning how to just shut that out and just tell your body, no, you can do this. And we were just talking with my training group back in Steinbach a couple weeks ago about mentally, and because we often talk about if we don't get our goal in a race or whatever, we chalk it up to I was mentally tough enough. Because so often we train. It's like, hey, physically I should be able to run that time. Well, I didn't run that time. Well, then it must be mental, right? Yeah. And so we got to. It is partially an excuse there too. I'm just thinking, but it's also, just training yourself how you're gonna be confident, waking up on race day, being confident, knowing you're gonna go through the most pain you've ever been through in your life. If you're going to be going for your personal best or whatever that might be, but then knowing that you're going to do it, being completely confident that if you do push it out, if you do suppress the pain and whatever that's going through your, I've, I can share this. I've woken up at a half mile from the finish line inside an ambulance before, just because I kept pushing my body, and told myself I was going to keep going, and I didn't. And then waking up in an ambulance, that's a different feeling. But it's, mental toughness is the biggest part of running. You can train, but this thing has to be there on race day as well.
That's 100%, because when you're running, your mind will tell you you're stopping. And I've heard this saying where, when it does that, you're only at 70% of what you can actually do. You're 20%, you still have 70% more.
I totally believe that. Yeah.
If you can do that, you can push through the pain. I'm not sure if you know David Goggins or not.
Yeah.
He's a heavy believer in that.
Unreal.
Pushing through the pain, being the dog. Where is that? For me, yesterday I was running and it was a 5K, right? And there's so much it's on my mind where I just fed into that. And I forgot that I was actually running. So do you ever have that moment where it's that dark side where you're going to reach it when you're at your worst?
Yeah, and I think that's where you can train your mental toughness is in those moments. You think, oh, it's just a little training run today.
Yeah.
And I'm not feeling it. Okay, well, we'll just toss that one out and whatever, try again tomorrow. It's it's on those days where you can train your body, where you can train your mind to be able to push through, where you're not feeling it today. I've had days too where it's something did not sit right. In my whatever, okay, got an evening run planned. I normally run in the mornings, but now and then I run in the evenings. I hate it for a number of reasons, but one of them is the stomach stuff. But I had a meal that just wasn't sitting right. But I'm like, no, I said I was going to run tonight. I'm going to run today. And it's okay, well, today's the day. Maybe I should try running at marathon pace for X amount of miles with my stomach not feeling well. So putting yourselves in position where you're going to be uncomfortable and training your body. I just had another one just last weekend where I'm like, hey, I'm going to run this evening. And I knew I was going to go outside. I just logged a couple easy miles, and just things came up. It's getting late, and it's like, no, I said I was going to run today. All I want to do right now is go to bed.
Yeah.
But if I go out and run now, that's what's going to train me. And then once you get out there, so often it's like, oh, okay, thank you for just getting out the door. But no, training yourself in mental toughness, putting yourself in positions in your training that you're going to not feel well. That's where the mental toughness comes in.
Yeah. What do you tell yourself? Like when you do hit that wall, like, do you like talk to yourself and be like, keep going, keep going, keep going? Like, are you, like, what do you say to yourself?
So there's a number of different things that you can do. Everyone kind of has their mantra that they run through.
Yeah.
Mine that in my training and in my life in general, my life mantra is discipline is choosing between what you want now and what you want most.
Okay.
And so if you can just switch that perspective, whether it be training or whether it be something you want to achieve in your life or whatever it might be, goal setting. If you can pick, because so often, like now, and I feel like it's coming up more and more and more in culture today, it's just like, what satisfies me now?
Yeah.
And maybe I'm generalizing a lot, but it feels like people more and more aren't wanting to like really push for something that's out there and have to put in the grind, put in the work to get there. And if you can set in your heart, set in your mind that no, this temporary pain that I'm going through is going to be worth it because I see that over there. That, you know, and sometimes it's so far away that you can't even see it. But if you can get it in your mind that you know, this pain is temporary, I'm going to be enduring this for a short purpose, for a short time, but there's a purpose to it. If you can put a purpose to your pain, you can push through anything. Yeah. And that's, I guess, maybe what I've learned a lot about running, is that I never want to. Yeah.
But why put yourself through that pain? Like, why?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That is a good question. Us distance runners are a little nuts. I get it. I enjoy it. There's something about pushing yourself to a new experience, to something that you haven't achieved before.
Mm-hmm.
That's so gratifying. And I don't know for your listeners or viewers who have seen like the movie Free Solo or the documentary Free Solo, but the guy who climbs that rock face like free without cables, like that's a different type of achieving something where literally your life's on the line.
Yeah.
But there is still something to that where it's like pushing yourself to somewhere where you don't think that you can go, and then that feeling when you're done and where you have pushed yourself further than what you thought you could go. I mean, there's nothing like that feeling. Mm-hmm. And so giving yourself that reward and then working hard, stuff's way more satisfying when you work for it.
Yeah, exactly.
And like when you get given something for free, it's just, it's nice and all, but when you have to work for something, it's way more, and maybe, And I grew up in a like I mentioned, a farming, a Mennonite, hardworking, like culture. And so that was just inbred into me. Like, you got to work for stuff. Nothing's given to you for granted. And now I totally, that could apply to running as well.
And I feel like a lot of people are like losing that aspect. Like they see that like, oh, sometimes like life's just going to hand you stuff. No, you got to work for it.
100%.
Like, you got to put every ounce sweat, tear into it.
Yeah.
So like, I'm like, you said in a couple minutes ago that there's a lot about your life, what a marathon can teach, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you can relate a lot of your life to what a marathon. So I'm curious to see what lessons have you applied from the marathon to your life.
Well, there's a number of things. For me, a lot of it applies to my life as a Christian. Yeah. And working towards that ultimate heaven, like for me, the heavenly goal. And to work through that. Just running with perseverance. Where do I want to go here?
Wherever you want to take it.
Take it wherever you want to go.
Yeah, for sure.
You're the guest. Take it.
Yeah. So for me, it's when you're, I think a lot of it comes back to that working hard for something. Right. And so you get in your place. A lot of people, the gun goes off and you're going towards a goal, and it's like the first little bit's going to be easy. You're going to make gains. You're going to make inroads. Yeah, I'm in the race. Yippee. And a lot of the people in a race are there for that experience, right? For that experience of the community, of being a part of something, and I think a lot of people, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna set this goal and woohoo, I'm on my way to the goal. And then, you know, miles 7, 8, 9 comes. Okay, I'm still doing okay, but this is starting to get a little uncomfortable. You know, you get to that 16, 18, 20 point, and it's like, okay, this just sucks. I'm gonna give up. And you know, it's for me as a Christian. If I read the Bible, you know, in this world you will have trouble is a verse that is something that Jesus spoke. You're gonna face hardships. You're gonna face times in your life where it's not gonna be easy. There's gonna be cracks in the road that you got to make sure your ball isn't bouncing into. There's traps all around you that are gonna try to steal you away. I think about running on a trail on a mountain sometimes where you're like, you know, you got the cliff up on this side and you got straight down over there, and if your eyes go down there, you're naturally going to run over there. And so keeping your eyes on what it matters to you, and not getting sucked away where you're going to fall away and stuff like that. So there's, no matter what you want, my life goal is eternity with Jesus. And so for me, that's the goal that I'm going to go to. And it doesn't matter what comes around me. That's what I'm aiming at. And no matter what anyone's life goal is, no matter what your goal is, if you can keep your eyes set on your prize, if you can keep your eyes set there where that's what I want, then I'm okay going through tough times now because that's my goal. And I think that's probably the main thing that I've learned. And just to throw off, like, yeah. And then also something that the Apostle Paul talks about in the New Testament as well, where he says, like, when he's talking about a race, like a runner, like, throws off everything that's hindering him, right? I'm not going to be dragging a 100-pound weight behind me when I'm running a race. I'm not going to intentionally wear super baggy clothes that are going to be restricting my movement. So let's not be hanging on to things that are going to be weighing us down as we pursue goals, right? As we pursue what we want. Like, let's throw off those things. Let's let go of the things that are going to be dragging us behind, so that we can get our goals. And that's what I've a lot of things of what I've been learning about.
Yeah, that's very powerful. I'd like to add something that I've also experienced when running is, especially when I ran the 10K. You know, first time I ever ran, barely trained for it, but you know, I said I was going to do it, so I did.
Good on you.
And so I realized that when you start in that group, right? Like, everybody's at their start line, you start running, and then the further you get, there's less people.
Yeah.
And I sort of try to apply that to my life as well. It's like, sometimes, like, the further you get pursuing a goal, there's less people there to support you. Yeah. Do you feel that way, or in some ways, or?
I mean, because and if you can get that group, like, so I've ran here in Manitoba. I've ran I've ran smaller marathons before. And yeah, you're all by yourself, like, very quickly, especially once you're running at the pace that I'm running at. The smaller marathons, you're not going to have people running with you. And if you can get into a group, it's amazing how much faster you can go.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because you got those guys that you're feeding off of. I've had the pleasure of running the Boston Marathon. I've had the pleasure of running New York City, and where you're literally going like 3 people wide for 26 miles. And it's like, you're in that pack. You know, the first Boston, I remember, like, literally the first, like, 5 miles, it's like 2 lanes wide, shoulder to shoulder. You're trying to, like, go run like that. It's insane. Yeah. And it's actually slowing you down. But but what you're saying there is, like, when you're still with people, getting closer to the end of a race, you feed off each other. Exactly. And if you can get a group of people around you that are all pushing to the same goal, it can really push. And I've been lucky enough to be with a group of runners, to get together with a bunch of runners from Steinbach area, where we meet on the track every Tuesday, and we're a wide range of abilities and speeds, but we do our Tuesday track workout together, and we all do the same workout, and it's all at different speeds, but because it's on a track, you're always passing each other, but you're still always together, right? And there's, you know, a couple of us that are running at a completely different speed than some of the other people are, but we're all pushing each other, and those people who are running slower are pushing us as well, because we're seeing them and we're seeing the struggle that they're going through, and it makes us want to make sure we're struggling alongside with them, you know? And so running with people, if you can get that group that is all pushing in the same direction, it's powerful. Yeah.
Because you feed off of people's energy.
100%.
Like like at the start when the gun goes off, everyone's anxious. Like they're like, let's go.
Chariots of Fire music starts. It's like, let me.
But then you get into like mile 10, you get around mile 20. There's 6 miles to go. That's where you find the true champion. Those people that are willing to push it through, like go, like those are the dogs. Those are the real guys that like go for it. You know. So, what does that training process look like? You're training 7 days a week? You said.
Yeah.
You're doing track workouts on Tuesday? Is that threshold workouts or?
Yeah, that's all threshold.
Okay.
Threshold stuff. That's all. Yeah, pushing. That's like the one time a week where I'll like go faster than what marathon pace is.
Okay.
Or my goal pace, whatever race I'm training for. Yeah.
And then is the rest just easy runs, or are you doing tempo workouts?
Yeah,
or?
exactly. So there's a lot of easy runs, a lot of recovery runs that are just, you know, where you actually have to work to run slow enough.
Right.
And
it's crazy to say that.
It is. It is. But like actually a lot of your miles, a lot of people run, you know, their easy miles too fast because they're just running comfortably when you're actually still like you're not allowing your body to replenish. And you know, when you read about the different you know, what they're doing in Africa down there in Kenya and Ethiopia and their big like training camps of the pros, they're running, I mean, their recovery runs are running slower than what I run.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, okay, but you're running like way faster than me in a race, you know, like, but that just, their max when they're running their tempo stuff is so much faster. And then they run so much slower. And I think so many people are running just everything in that middle, right, or even everything at their kind of their goal marathon pace. It's like, no, you actually need that, like that variation. I run very, very few times do I actually, like about once a week. Sometimes I'll throw in a little, like a mile or two in my long run at marathon pace. When I get closer to marathons, I'll do a little bit more, just to make sure I can hit those paces at the end of a long run. But for the most part, I won't touch marathon pace more than twice a week.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is your marathon pace?
So it's right at 6 minute mile.
Okay.
Is what I've ran.
Ouch.
So the goal, like, and I know I can go. Yeah. So when I ran that, my personal best a couple of years ago, 2019, I knew, like, everything went perfect, and because it went perfect, it was like, I know I can run faster.
Yeah.
And it just gave, and then COVID happened, and it was like, I know it's there. I know it's, but I 2020, I got hurt. I tore my meniscus in my knee, and so I would have been running, would have been out anyway. So it was kind of probably blessing in disguise that I wasn't like pushing my recovery to get back for a race, that I was able to just like shut her down. But no, I know I can go faster. I'd love to get down to like kind of 232 maybe this year if I can. Like I'd really I want to get one that's just like, or I'm just going to go for it and just see what happens.
Yeah.
And see, you know, I don't want to jinx or anything, but I really would like to win the Manitoba Marathon once yet.
Yeah.
Like I really badly want to. And so I know if I can stay at that, 235-ish for enough years, 1 year, all of a sudden it'll sneak in there where I'll going to be able to take it. But yeah.
Talk about your marathon resume as well, because you mentioned you ran Boston and New York.
Mm-hmm.
What other races have you done? What are some stories from those races that you like?
Boston's awesome. The history there is fantastic. So that one is one that you have to qualify to get into. And so you're there with people who are all runners, right? There's not any first timers. There's not and there's the history of that course. It starts 26 miles outside of downtown Boston, and then you run down into town. It's got the hill, whatever. It's just the history of that one. Every corner on the course, so there's a history of that one, right? New York was fantastic. That one's a lot more of got that big city, glitz and glamour feel to it. Fans are insane. Just lining the entire 26 miles, they're screaming and cheering. There was never a quiet moment other than the bridges.
Yeah.
So, which were a weird thing in itself, right? Because bridges are hills. Because of the way they're designed, right? Yeah, so you get all of a sudden a 1.5 mile long bridge, and it's quiet, and you got a 3/4 mile climb, and then a 3/4 mile descent, and so those were weird too, especially because it was so loud every time else. So those ones were great. Other than that, I haven't done a lot of other big ones. Okay. I'd like to do Chicago yet, just to get all the marathon majors that are in North America. Obviously, I'd like to go overseas yet to do the other ones, but because I'm a teacher, marathons happen spring and fall, and we get time off, but not during spring. It's not when we it's set apart time off. So going to doing London and a Berlin and with those type of runs aren't really possible. But no, I've ran in. I've done the Twin Cities one in Minneapolis, and I did Vancouver. That one was beautiful. A lot of it's right along the coast. Yeah. It's gorgeous. It's quite hilly. Okay. Hilliest one I ran was in Atlanta. That one was just like ups and downs. I got relatives who live there, so I'm like, yeah, we'll go down there. We'll run the marathon. And I looked. That was a funny story. So I looked at the elevation chart, and I'm like, I saw there's kind of 3 hills a mile, and I just assumed because it was in the States, and even here, all elevation charts are in feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About 2 weeks out, I looked at it, and I'm like, that's meters.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no, I'm not I'm trained for hills, but that's times 3 now. So, no, there was nothing flat about that course ever. That one I wrecked. That last 6 miles blew up hard. Yeah, but I've ran Manitoba a number of times. I've gotten a podium, got a couple of fourths, but I'd love to win it yet eventually.
But I'm sure when your students found out about you having a world record,
probably the
that was
gym.
You were the coolest gym teacher in the world.
You know what? No, it was pretty cool to have them, and they didn't know about it. So because the Manitoba Marathon happened that last weekend before school started last year, they had no idea. And so they're just hearing on the news that I did it. So I came to school the first day of school started, and obviously everyone's talking about it, and it's it was a lot of fun. They've enjoyed it, and I know the basketball unit this year or the dribbling unit that I did this year, there was a little bit extra focus there on some of the boys, which was nice.
Yeah.
But and I know even for my own kids, I got 4 kids between the ages of, they're now 4 and 10. And my 6-year-old went out for a run shortly after I did the record with a basketball, and he's going. He put in 2 miles. He did a lot. It was a lot of walking, but he did like 2 miles of dribbling a basketball. I'm like, well done, my friend. That's impressive. So no, if I can, that's the whole thing too about this and sharing my story and stuff like that. Do you know what? Sometimes we need to come up with crazy ideas just to get ourselves to stay active, just to get ourselves to stay motivated, and if this can inspire someone to try something a little crazy or a little weird to stay active, just try something, have fun, stay active. Don't have to be serious all the time, have some fun with it.
What about the response you got from it? Did you announce it before you were in the marathon? How? Yeah. And then what was the response before and then compared to after, obviously?
So I was actually quite nervous to share with my running friends that I was doing this. Running is a purist. There's no sport more simple than running. It's just running. Yeah. Right. Every other sport has running in it. Right. And so this one was, I was scared, actually. So I waited till about 2 weeks before to share that I was going to be doing this. And you know what? And it was so positive from all my running friends. Definitely got some weird looks. I know Manitoba Marathon announced it on their social media stuff, I think the day before the race, that I was going to be trying it. And I honestly, I assumed that, there would be some, the local Steinbeck News might pick it up type thing, and that would kind of be it. But it blew up pretty good, and it was fun. I know once Runner's World contacted me and reached out for an interview, and it was like, oh, okay, now this story is real. And I know my aunt down in Michigan was listening to the radio, and they just did a little human interest story on me too, and I was like, what is going on here? This was just my own little quirky goal to get up in the morning, and now it's being shared all over North America. It's it's kind of cool, it was kind of fun.
How did you transfer that impact onto your students, as well as just telling them go try weird things,
just do stuff? Yeah.
What do they say? Are they yo, Mr. Reimer?
Well, see, some of them I teach grade 1 to 4.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So it's different than middle school, high school as well, where for them, they just know Mr. Reimer runs. Yeah. They know that I run marathons, and I love it for them that running a marathon is something that's completely doable in their minds.
Yeah.
Right. And so I know I had one of my soccer coaches, actually coached me a year or two of basketball as well, was a marathon runner when I was in middle school. That it made the marathon seem doable, right? It's something that people do. And so if I can, we have quite an awesome running club program at our school that happens every spring, for grade 4 students, where we get 3/4 of the grade 4s sign up. And then we run a 5K at the end of the year, with grade 4s. So these are 10-year-olds,
Yeah.
and all shapes and sizes, and they're out there and they're learning how to push through and do stuff like that too. And then they go on to the middle school in Mitchell, which does very well in cross country. So it's like running is not just something. I'm trying to get them to, that running isn't something that you do to stay in shape for other sports, but running is actually a sport in itself.
Right.
And that you can, they're cool teachers, a runner, so running's a cool sport.
Are you aware of the impact that you have on these kids? Like, just like you said, like you had a coach that, was a marathon runner or whatever. Are you aware that even just by telling your story, like me right now, I'm inspired by what you're saying. Are you aware of the impact that you're putting on the world?
It's humbling. Yeah. It really is. So to my students, yes, absolutely. And it's something that for me, I don't take for granted. And I'm so grateful for that I've been entrusted. Like, so we're a school of 400 kids or whatever. I see them all every other day. Yeah. And so for 4 years. Yeah. So like tangibly it's crazy really, like the impact that I have. So yeah, yes, I am aware of it. It's humbling and I'm trying my darndest not to screw it up. Cause all it takes too is one. I mean, I'm sure we've all had one teacher that wasn't great and put us back a little bit by the way that they treated us or the way that, and I've had a number of them growing up. But I've also had a couple of ones that are the reason that I'm a teacher today.
Yeah.
Right. And that had a positive influence on me. And so I want to be one of those teachers that does push it. I know I got a student now what is she in grade 8, 9, who's already ran a marathon now. Wow. and is planning on running some more. And I'm just like, and she's letting me know this, and it's like, and I wouldn't have seen her per se as even a runner when she left grade 4, but she totally accredited me to her to making it seem doable. And so it's so humbling, and it's such an honor to be entrusted with that parents are entrusting me to take care of their kid and to pour out wisdom and influence on their kid. Like it's an insane privilege. Yeah. It really is. And not something I want to take for granted. I want to make the most of it. Yeah.
What is some advice you can give to the runner who's just starting out, or some elite runners that are in the sport? What is some advice that you could give to them, or someone just trying to be active? What is some advice you can give to them to have an active life?
So I'm definitely a goal-oriented person. I think a lot of people are. Some people aren't. But no, I just encourage, set a goal. Not everyone has to be a marathon that has to run a marathon to stay fit. Not everyone has to do something completely crazy to be fit. But it's just about setting that goal, whatever it might be, and then sticking with it.
Yeah.
I know, whatever, she's going to hate me for saying this, but my wife isn't naturally a runner, or even she's not a great athlete, but she was just 1 year was no, I'm going to run a half marathon this year. And for me, then kind of helping her, and I helped a lot of that same year, a lot of my family, in-laws and stuff like that decided that, we're gonna all run half marathons together. So again, got the community, right? Like you guys were mentioning before, and it's totally good. Got the community and did it together. And for me, it's if you're gonna be running, what I often say is, once you can run 2 miles without feeling like you're gonna die the whole time, because I think a lot of people are I can't run more than I can't run to the corner and back without without dying. But once you can work your way up to running 2 miles without dying, then all of a sudden, once you can get comfortable running 2-3 miles, then pushing up to half marathon is completely doable. And that's what I've seen in a lot of people. But no, get a goal, get some friends around you, and go for it. The accountability of friends is huge. I know even for me, sharing early on, I guess I didn't share very early on about this, other than my close family, about the basketball thing. But sharing what your goal is. I'm going to say it. I want to get my personal best at the Manitoba Marathon this June. Yeah. That's my goal. So now I have people that are going to be watching to see if I do it. Yeah. And so now when I wake up on a whatever morning and I don't feel like getting out the door, it's no, they're all going to be watching me and see if I got the end prize. I got to get out the door this morning and get it done. Yeah. And so, it's pressure. Yeah. But it's It's a lot of fun.
Is that with or without the basketball?
Without. The basketball is done.
Done? No.
Finished. I have not gone another run with a basketball since then. It was.
Is there something else that you have maybe implanted? Maybe you're thinking like,
I want to race now again. I
Yeah.
want to race now again. You know, I was joking around saying that if there wasn't going to be like normal racing this year, that I might try the soccer ball.
Oh.
Which is apparently the record is I think about 320-ish.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's like it's slower, but it's you're
dribbling.
when you're dribbling a basketball, you can kind of your feet are still doing the normal thing. You just got to worry about adding your hands. When you're doing soccer, that'd be a whole nother animal.
Yeah.
So whatever. But no, I want to get back to racing now. I got Manitoba Marathon in June, and then I'm gonna actually stretch myself a little bit, and I'm doing signed up for an ultra marathon this summer out in BC, 100 kilometers. So that's a
different terrain.
That's a whole nother beast.
Yeah.
That's what I want to.
First one?
My first one.
Okay.
Yeah, I did with a friend of mine. I ran 100K on flat roads last summer together, just for fun. Again, I got weird friends, man. Running community, we do weird things for fun.
Just 100 kilometers. Nothing.
Greg
crazy.
Petter, you're awesome. Thanks for joining me. No, get a goal, share it with people, get them to hold you accountable, and then push.
Nice. On that note, yeah, I think this is the perfect way to end off the podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to check them out. We'll tag everything in the description below. We're live every Tuesday morning at 11:30 a.m. on the UMFM radio station, 101.5 FM. And until next time, peace.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was a privilege.
Oh.